Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Speaking Sessions podcast. I'm very excited about our guest today. I've had him on a couple times on different iterations of my podcast. As y'all know, I went through a rebranding recently, had him on that where we did a joint podcast. And actually the fitness podcast I had before I went into more of the speaking coaching route where I had him on as well. And both him and I have grown a ton together, and he's added another title, but now he's a cross-functional executive leader. He was at the time only a VP of not engineering, of IT and HR at the time, but now he's picked up safety as well. So this dude's an awesome leader, helping people with leadership coaching. He's a speaker and podcaster, and he's been on some panels here recently. So really excited to dive into that as well. But Sean, take it away and tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Well, Philip, I got to say, it's always a pleasure whenever we get the opportunity to talk to one another. I know at the end of last year, you actually were here in the Houston area. You got to come and sit down in the studio. We recorded some stuff together. Man, I love your energy and everything that you do. And you kind of touched on my backstory. You know, grew up focused on technology. It just always came easy to me. And then I spent almost 16, 17 years focused just on technology. And then I grew into human resources. And then last year also stepped in and started leading safety and transportation and ESG. It's been quite an interesting journey trying to tack on those other functional domains and learn more about them. But one of the things that I can't stress enough, I have learned in the progression of my career is you don't have to be an expert in any given domain. You have to be a strong leader. Your experts are going to exist within each of your teams. You empower them and coach them and mentor them and guide them and set them up for success, and all ships will rise with the tide.
Man, that's awesome. And I think, especially as entrepreneurs, we feel like we have to know everything. We feel like if I don't know this better than everybody else, then people are going to look at me like I can't lead them. And actually, this wasn't what we were planning on talking about, but I like that point. So could you kind of expound upon that a little bit, how that works and how to overcome that fear? I'm sure you probably had that fear, especially when you stepped into the HR role. I know we've talked about this before, how you really wanted to, and then also with the safety, you kind of wanted to take over that as well, but still stepping into that, it's totally a different paradigm. It's totally different avenue for you. And so how is overcoming that and not being that expert in that field and everything?
Yeah, I would say stepping in and leading human resources was the most challenging, and if I'm being honest, scary. I knew that I wanted something more in my career, and I saw an opportunity and jumped on it. 2 weeks in, I was questioning if I made the right decision because it felt like I was drinking from multiple fire hoses. They were just coming from everywhere. I didn't know employment law. I didn't know how to handle working with legal issues or payroll processes, but I knew how to bring a team together. And I know I've shared this story with you before, but whenever I stepped in and started leading human resources, I was the director of IT and then stepped in and was the director of HR and IT. I had 7 HR managers that were reporting to me at that point in time, 6 of which wholeheartedly believe they were going to be the next director. So I had to figure out how to come in and build a relationship, knowing that 6 of these people were quite frankly upset that the IT guy got chosen over all of these HR professionals that had been doing HR for 10, 20, 30 years for some of them.
Oh.
And what I realized was in having conversations with all of them, I was blunt and honest and said, look, I'm not an expert. I'm probably not even going to be in this role for more than a year. So let's do this. Let's come together as a team. Let's get the team functioning as this cohesive unit instead of all of these little individual silos. Once we get the team working well together, I will put, or if you've been instrumental in part of this process, I'll put you in front of the CEO. I'll put you in front of whoever we need to give you the opportunity to step in and be the next director of HR. And I think having that conversation and just being honest with them, letting them know, look, I'm not an expert. You are the expert. I'm just here to help y'all all pull it together. It helped establish trust right on the front end of it. And then there was a lot of back and forth. I had to work very closely with the payroll manager, with the HR operations manager, and I was teaching them about structure and team building and working together. and they were teaching me about employment law, about payroll processes. So whenever I came in and didn't have any sort of an ego, like, hey, I'm going to fix this. This is what we're going to do. It kind of pulled their walls down and helped them realize, okay, hang on a second. This is probably, if I had to guess, was probably better than any other HR directors or VPs they'd had in the past coming in who says, hey, this is what we're doing. I don't care what you want. Whereas me, I checked my ego and said, look, I'm not the expert here. You guys are the experts. What do you want to do? Let's make it happen. And so that process took me probably a good 6 to 8 months to figure that out, build that trust, build those relationships, and get the team to a good place. And then a year in, the CEO and COO said, hey, you're keeping HR. Now, fast forward, that was 5 years ago. If we fast forward to last year, they asked me to step in and lead safety and transportation and then start the ESG function, which I was a little bit uneasy taking on all three of them, but I felt this is a great opportunity to learn. And I took the same approach. And what I've realized is taking that approach works. It doesn't matter if it's HR or safety or transportation or engineering or project management. As a leader, you just have to know how to lead people and you have to care about people.
And so many great points there. And first and foremost, I mean, you came in with humility. You came in and showed that you're not going to be here just to dictate them and tell them what to do. You're actually leaning on them. And also you told them up front what your thoughts were, what your plans were. You're very transparent, open, and honest about that, where a lot of leaders aren't. They're just like, hey, I'm your leader now. This is what's going to happen. And that's it. It's like, no, this is my goal. This is what I want to see. And it's more like hey, let's work together to make this happen, make the best of this. Not, this is the goal, you've got to deal with it. And then also, I like that you said you were going to bring them in to speak with the CEO as well, to speak with that next level up. Because a lot of times it's like the buck stops with a certain level of management, and just depending on where you're at, your next level up is that's as high as you really go. Every once in a while, you might be exposed to the next level, but a lot of leaders, a lot of managers, really not leaders, because that to me, that's two totally different things. The managers won't allow you to speak with management or the next level of leadership, but you were like, no, if there's an opportunity, we're going to get you in front of there. We're going to get you exposed to get you that exposure. So hopefully you have that opportunity down the road. So I love all that. But how are you not afraid of speaking? Because to me, that'd be super scary coming in that role. And then as you went into the next VP role as well, that would be so scary. And so how in the world are you not afraid to speak in front of people?
One of the things that I've come to realize is that confidence is key. You have to be able to project your confidence. You have to feel comfortable when you're having conversations up and down the chain of command. And there's a number of things that help build confidence, but one of those is competence. If you are an expert in your field, it makes it very easy for you to come in and speak intelligently on any given topic related to that field. And that's one of the things that I always try to coach and teach people is, look, focus on becoming the absolute best at what you do. This other stuff will all come together. If you're the best at what you do, it's going to open up doors for you. It's going to make it easier for you to come in and sit down and have a conversation with your peers, your colleagues, people on your team. Now, I will say it gets a little bit tricky when you're having conversations up the chain of command. Admittedly, there have been times in the past when, I would sit down with the CEO or COO and be a little bit jittery and nervous. And this is something that you and I have talked about. I kind of liken it to public speaking. One of the things I've realized is only about 10% of that nervousness or excitement that you're feeling really shows through. Once you realize that, it allows you to think, okay, well, while my heart rate's going, 120 beats per minute or, whatever the number is, not all of that is showing through. And it takes someone who is very familiar with reading people and also familiar with you to really pick up on those cues. So when you realize that, hey, everything that I'm feeling inside, not everybody can see, that makes it a little bit easier. Now, I've experienced whenever I've had to present to boards and audit committees and things like that. Oh, man, getting so nervous. Hopefully this doesn't make it out to any of our board members, but I walked in and realized, look, these are just people too.
Mm-hmm.
And the approach that I took is like, okay, this is like me going in and having a conversation with my grandpa, really, because they're just human. If you catch them
because of their age? No, I'm just kidding.
Yes. Oh, maybe we can bleep that out. I don't know. It's fine. When you catch them like in the kitchen area or they're grabbing something to eat, they're so nice. They're just people. And when you realize that they're just people, that also makes it easier for you to have those conversations. Now, once you have the competence, start focusing on getting experience, get exposure, get in front of those people as often as you can. If there's a situation where there's a lunchroom or board members or executives or directors or wherever you're at in the chain of the command, these rules still apply. Go have a conversation with them in the lunchroom. Hey, how was your weekend? Do you have any kids? Do they play soccer? Like, just have conversation. That makes it a lot easier for you to start getting comfortable with those people, and trust will start to be built so that whenever you do go in and give a presentation, you already know who they are. You know their kids' names. All of those things all kind of come together and make it easier for you to have those conversations. And a few years ago, I received a compliment from our CEO that has always resonated with me. And I try my best to kind of keep moving forward on this thing. And she said that one of the things that impresses her the most is my ability to communicate to everyone up and down the chain of command. I can go into a board meeting and have conversations with them, and I can go out to the field and have conversations with operators. And I think that comes from my background. I grew up a country boy. I can have conversations with these guys. These operators are country boys, right? So that's what I grew up with. And I've gotten more exposure to senior executives and board members over the years. So you have to be able to communicate and get exposure to them on a regular basis. One thing, I'm just going to add one more thing here, and then we can kind of move on. But I last year during the pandemic, I wasn't able to travel as much and get out to the field. And when the travel restrictions started to lift, and I started visiting some of the district locations, Philip, man, I was struggling to connect with these guys a little bit. And on the drive home from Midland, I was thinking, man, what on earth happened? And I had this realization event that it had been a year and a half, almost 2 years since I had actually gone out and had conversations with these people. The message there is you've got to continue to practice interfacing with people in the field, executives. You have to keep having those touch points so that you stay comfortable with them. No doubt you've probably seen it in your life where people that only interact with directors and VPs, they look super awkward when they go have a conversation with kind of some of the field level employees or individual contributors.
Yep.
So message there, make sure you focus on continuing to have those conversations with as many people up and down the chain of command as possible so that you maintain that level of comfort and maintain that ability to effectively communicate to all of them.
Man, so many great points. And it's funny. I know we talked about a little bit what we were going to talk about, but you're literally talking about the next point that I want to get into was how do you speak to different audiences in a corporate setting? I mean, it doesn't have to be a corporate setting as well, but I think that's a great place for a lot of people to understand. So I really want to, since we're already kind of on that subject of speaking to the people, quote unquote, beneath you, if you will, or people that are more of those line workers, whatever. But let's just say maybe you're a professional, but basically you're speaking to people that are below you in the ranks. How do you speak to those people?
One of the things that I've picked up on over the years is as I've progressed in my career, if I sit down and have a conversation with someone who's kind of an admin or coordinator level, kind of entry level role in their career, because of my title, they will come in and be really nervous. And it's easy for me to forget how I felt whenever I was at that point in my career. So a big thing that I focus on is trying to make them feel comfortable. I pick up on mannerisms and body language and cues. And if I see that someone's uncomfortable, I'll start having a conversation about their kids, their family, their dog, anything to take their mind off of business. And whenever people start talking about things that they love and cherish and are passionate about, their walls start to come down, and they'll start to feel more of a connection to you. They start to realize that you're human too. While you may have a VP title or whatever your title is, you're still human. And it took me quite a few years to kind of figure that trick out, but it seems to work well. Now, it doesn't always work on the first interaction, which kind of goes back to my point earlier of making sure that you have consistent touch points. Those consistent touch points can be challenging as you progress, as you get more responsibility. But as leaders, we have to take a concerted effort and focus on making sure that we have those touch points with as many people on the team as possible, as consistently as possible. When you do that, you'll start to build trust. And then also word will spread, hey, Sean's a real guy. And you can go talk to him. You can trust him. You can count on him. He's just a normal guy. He's not a grandpa, but he's just a normal guy.
Yeah. So I like that. It's such a good point that you do need to make those touch points. And I know seeing VPs and those people that are higher up, it's always really awkward to talk with them, because a lot of times, I mean, I understand they're busy. They've got a lot of meetings to go to and whatnot, but they don't ever usually break down and really speak to you on a personal level. It always seems like you've got to just talk about business. And I think that's some of what the employees feel like that's what they have to talk about. So it's great that you have those touch points and you're continually doing that. What's some advice that you give to some of the senior management, if you will, to be able to make sure that they're having those touch points and talking with the employees?
You have to make time. It's really what it comes down to. And one thing that I think is very important, it is difficult. It's not easy, but it is very important. Whenever you have a conversation with a member of your team, so and this applies to anyone up and down the chain of command, but whenever you're having a conversation with someone that's kind of lower in the ranks than you, they have to feel like they are the most important person in the world in that moment, which means if your computer is up, you close your laptop screen, you lock your computer. Your cell phone, do not have it out. Do not be texting while they're sitting here trying to convey whatever message they're trying to take. Flip your phone over, put it on silent, do not disturb. Be in the moment with them. Make them feel like they are the most important person in the world. I guarantee you, as leaders, as busy as we get, you can carve out 10 minutes. You can carve out 15 minutes to put everything else aside. It may seem stressful at first, especially for people that receive 150 emails a day like I do. It's tough. It's not easy, but man, that is what it takes. You've got to spend the time with your people. You've got to care, and you have to listen to understand. Don't listen to respond.
So good. And I know going into management meetings or upper management, senior management meetings, when you're presenting, a lot of times they are just texting on their phone the whole time, just phones going off. They're texting and they're kind of paying attention, but not really. And that's actually, I want to kind of go that other way. But as we talk about how we speak to that senior management, especially in moments like that, where it seems like they're too busy, they're not really paying attention, but they're supposed to be an engaged audience. So we're supposed to be having their attention because we're presenting for whatever it is, budget forecast, or, hey, we've got this new project, we're trying to get money to invest on that, whatever it may be. When we're presenting to that senior management group, I want you to talk about how you overcame the fears, how you overcame not being able to get them to pay attention, and also just how to speak to them, I guess, from a general perspective as well. Because a lot of people are, I would say, are more in that boat where they're having to go talk to senior management, or have to go talk to somebody who isn't a part of their team. So they don't necessarily have their full captured attention. So how do you go about that, talking to senior management, and how did you overcome that?
Yeah. So I have a few thoughts on on that particular topic. Both require confidence, but one thing that I like to do is when you have your presentation, if you're presenting something on the board or on PowerPoint or whatever your presentation is, you open up the conversation with something along the lines of, "Hey, this is a really important topic. We want to make sure that I'm able to convey everything and answer all of your questions. I would ask that if you could leave your phones on vibrate and close your laptops. That way we can be engaged in the conversation in the moment. That way we can all get as much as possible out of this." I say that takes confidence because you have to be able to walk into a room of peers or executives and basically tell them what to do.
Yeah.
It's not always easy. That's actually really difficult to do, quite frankly. But if you do that, the majority of the time, they will respect that and put their phones down. The other aspect of it is a lot of what you talk about on your show and on your social media. Be captivating, be engaging, use hand gestures, project your voice out, use vocal variety, all of these things that you learn in public speaking and the things that you're teaching. So I think a combination of those two things can make a big difference in making sure that people are engaged. And then one other thing, kind of, I guess, a bonus tip is if you have the ability to walk around the room, or whether it's the boardroom or however the seating is arranged, if you notice that somebody's not paying attention, they're dozing off, whatever, start walking closer towards them, make eye contact with that person. Don't call them out. "Hey, John, why aren't you paying attention?" But if you start walking towards them, people are they're naturally going to kind of fall in line and start focusing, because they're going to have this internal, "Oh God, is he going to say something to me?" So that's just a little bonus tip that I've learned over the years to help people stay engaged.
Oh, and that's a good point there. And it really goes back to the beginning where you talked about they're just people. Because even though they're higher up the ladder than you, when you go in there to present to them, I mean, if you're kind of putting that pressure on them, it doesn't matter what level you are. They're like, oh crap, I got to be paying attention. Here I'm falling asleep. So that just kind of emphasizes the point that you said, that they're just people.
Yeah.
So,
well, nobody wants to be put on the spot, first of all. And even if you're a manager talking to C-suite executives, and there's a number of them in the room, if you walk up and ask any of them any sort of a question, they don't want to be put on the spot and showing that they're not paying attention, not so much because of you, the speaker, but because all of their peers are in the room, because they would face some sort of embarrassment of like, "Well, wait a second, are you not even paying attention to what's going on?" So, I mean, you want to be very cautious. Definitely don't call people out, especially if you know they don't have the answer, because that's going to set you up for some sort of not good situation.
Yeah.
But just walking towards them, making eye contact, usually those things will kind of pull them back into the conversation.
So how do you overcome, going in there, obviously telling them to put their phones away? That would be very scary. It'd be hard to do for sure. And that definitely shows a lot of confidence. So I love that. It's a great tip to really help show the confidence and really explain that, hey, this is important. I want to make sure you're paying attention and fully engaged. I think it's a great way to really get them. I mean, literally interactive as well. Okay, I got to put my phone down here. I'm going to put all my eyes on you. So you already kind of capture that attention there. Of course, you probably don't want to say a joke necessarily in that kind of group. I know it's a way you could kind of put some humor in and everything, but just try to come up with a story or however that opener looks like for you. But yeah, definitely I guess I'll ask you as well. Would a joke be appropriate with senior management?
Yeah. I mean, I think you have to stay true to who you are. If you're naturally a jokester or the class clown, layer it in a little bit. But for someone like me, who's not funny, it doesn't fit. Okay. Like I can't come out with any sort of a joke and people are just going to look at me like, come on, let's just get this rolling. So you have to stay true to who you are, really, is what it comes down to. But I don't think jokes are off limit as long as it's appropriate and fitting and kind of in line with what's going on. Yeah. At the end, I just have to say, stay true to who you are.
So, okay, that makes a lot of sense. And yeah, I would probably shy away from it because, but I tend to be serious. And then really with me, it'd be more engineering topics, in the 9 to 5 where I would talk now. So it'd be more of a serious matter. So yeah, it definitely depends on that subject matter there. But let's go back and talk about you a little bit and talk about how you overcame all this. Because I mean, since I've known you, Sean, like social media, you weren't a big fan of, you weren't really on there. You've really came out of your shell on that, and you've really posting a lot more. I know we were just joking yesterday. You were confirming that we were on for today for the podcast, and I was like, man, dude, proud of you. First video on TikTok is you shirtless. This guy's got like an 18 pack, and so he's probably I can't believe he didn't blow up from that one video of that. But no, it's awesome seeing you really come out of that shell. But I know you started out as an IT guy. I mean, all behind the scenes, working 80, 100 hours a week, all this crazy stuff, literally just speaking to computers, which I love to tell people that I'm making a transition from talking to computers and robots to talking with people. And so that's literally what you've done, because you went from VP of IT, computer people, to VP of HR, which are all people. And now you're over in safety, which people just don't like safety. So you're like, now you're kind of getting neglected now on two sides. Really, people don't like all three of those, because they're like, we got to deal with IT. It's kind of like, so you're in like three roles that people typically don't like too much. But how in the world did you come up to, go into these roles, to be able to speak with the C-suite executives, to speak with the board members, and then even being on panels? Because I know your aspirations are to become a chief intelligence officer as well. So how did you grow up, so to say, to be able to be this competent speaker that I see you being right now?
Well, I have to say that for the majority of my life, technology was always my passion. And then once I got into my mid 30s, I started yearning for more. I didn't know what, but I wanted something more. Technology just came easy to me. We didn't really have any major issues. The environment just ran. Everything worked well. We have a phenomenal technology team now we have a vice president of IT that is just absolutely an incredible leader. But in my mid 30s, I realized I wanted more. And so I started seeking that opportunity. And I was very fortunate to have the opportunity to step in with human resources. Whenever I did, I had this realization event of how much I love and enjoy leadership and leadership development and coaching. That became my new passion. When you are passionate about something, it makes it much easier for you to focus all of your energy and effort into doing that thing, into learning about that topic, building those skills. So for me, it was something that I'm passionate about. And I know a lot of leaders will just fall in to leadership roles just because they're the best engineer in the room. They default a leader. Well, that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be a good leader. Maybe they don't want to lead. Maybe they want to design tools. Okay. It's important for people to realize that you've got to follow your passion. And if you get offered this phenomenal leadership role, you have to be able to say, is that really what I want to do? The money for sure is going to be nice. Money is a driver for a lot of people. That's just a reality that we live in today. But making more money than you can spend and being miserable isn't really worth it, at least not in my experience. You've got to be happy. You've got to be passionate about what you do. So to kind of pull this all back for me and my experience and how I got there, once I realized how passionate I was about leadership, about building teams and building people, then it was just falling in line and learning and getting experience and getting exposure. And it's basically this flywheel effect. The more you do it, the more momentum you build, the easier it becomes. Like with anything new in life, when you first start out at it, you're gonna suck. That's just a reality of it. And then to touch on the social media side of things, for the past year and a half, oh God, as much as I don't like it, I'm getting better at it. I can see my engagement. I can see my followers growing, and I've been trying new things. Yes, I love technology, but I don't like social media. But I also realize it is a tool. It is a phenomenal tool to help thousands of lives. And when you're passionate about something, you get out of your comfort zone and you do what you've got to do. And that's really, whenever I look at social media side of things, I've been trying different things. If you scroll through my Instagram feed and in LinkedIn, you'll see that there's like different types of formatting of images that I've used. And right now I have this theme where I do a quote, I do a picture, and I do like a motivational reel. And I try to post something at least once a day. I used to post something once every few months and would just lurk. And I've realized I can't affect the lives that I want to in the way that I want to, posting something every few months. That I had to get out there, had to get through my insecurities and get past my issues that I had as far as fears of people thinking, oh, what is this guy doing? He's an IT guy out here trying to be a motivator, right? I don't like, you just have to get past that. And you know what? On this, I'm going to go on a little bit of a tangent and share a story. There is a gentleman that I've been following for a few years on LinkedIn. He's a technology executive focused on motivation and leadership development and team building. And I've been following him for a few years. He posts incredible content. I was at a CIO forum dinner about 6 weeks ago, and I'd stepped off to the side, having conversations with people. I stepped off to the side to check an email that came through on something that I needed to take care of. And this guy walks up to me and he's like, hey, young man, I've seen what you've been doing. I'm really excited to meet you. How are you doing? And
Awesome.
I looked up, and it was this guy that I've been following for so many years. And the fact that he came up, took time out of his conversations with other people to introduce himself, and the fact that he knew who I was like floored and excited. And we had a great conversation about leadership and his family and cars. We're both car guys. We both have ZR1s. And it was just such an incredible experience. And I had this moment of, you're doing it. You're making a difference. You're making an impact on people's lives. And that would have never happened had I not pushed out of my comfort zone and started having conversations with people and networking and going to panels and pushing the social media side of things and getting my message out there and just trying to help people out. So it all comes down to what are you willing to do?
Man, that is awesome. I love the story. I really appreciate you sharing that story, and so proud of you for doing that. I know I talked to you a few times about changing your Instagram name from user
_SB. Yeah. And then I couldn't find Sean Barnes, or there were certain, it was kind of tricky to find the one that I wanted, settled on _Sean Barnes, and that's pretty much where I'm at now. I think TikTok and so I got back on Twitter in the last 2 weeks for reasons that you may be able to deduce.
Yeah. Well, the hope that Trump comes back right now.
That wasn't the driver of it, but with everything that's going on with Musk and Twitter, I was like, you know what? Okay, I'll go ahead and sign back up for it. I didn't feel like,
why not? It's a good way to just another avenue. You take that quote, put it on there, just trying different content out, different audience and everything. So I love that you're getting on everything and you've overcame so much. But I want to ask you one last question here. And I think you've already kind of alluded to it a little bit, but if you could only speak one message for the rest of your life, what would that be?
It's not about you. It has to be about everybody else. There's a lot of people in life that are very self-centered and kind of just focused on me. And while you can make a lot of money, you can buy a lot of toys, you can go on a lot of trips, I've found that true fulfillment comes from helping everyone else around you. And it doesn't cost anything other than time. And yes, time is a very valuable resource. But man, if you want true fulfillment, focus on building other people, helping everyone else achieve the things that they are meant to achieve. Even if you don't know how, start learning and just start helping people out.
And so what are you doing to implement that into your life and your business right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think everything that I do around leadership development and the coaching program, and I think that I have kind of my own little leadership development and coaching thing that I do on the side to help people out. And with my team at my full-time job, I do my best to work with as many people as possible. And then with everything else on the side, it really is just kind of coming around to, hey, how can I help people? And then on social media, I'm delivering messages that resonate with me and that help me. And my hope is that it helps other people. And I get messages in my DMs all the time. Hey, this is exactly what I needed. Thank you so much. And that little message is all it takes to help me realize that I'm making a difference. And, I don't want to be some introverted person that at the end of my life, I look back and think, you know what, I could have done more, but I was scared to post. I was scared to put myself out there. And so it all comes down to, you've got to push past those fears. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be comfortable, but that's how we grow. And so trying to focus on helping as many people grow as possible, that's my purpose right now.
Love it, man. I love it. And you're definitely doing that. I mean, we've talked so many times. You've helped me out to be able to grow as well. I know we had this kind of similar background in engineering. I went over HR for a bit, and we talked a lot about that. It's kind of funny how those first 2 weeks were terror. Like, just start after 2 weeks, it got to be really hard for you, and it was about the same thing for me. So it's like, go from a technological, logical thing over to a less logical, we'll say. And dealing with people instead of computers is a difficult transition. So it's funny how we both struggled with that. But Sean, man, I appreciate you coming on here, talking to the audience about how to speak to different audiences and giving so much value. If they want to reach out to you, if they want to follow you, where's the best place?
I think Instagram's probably the best place. Just go to _Sean Barnes. And then like I said, TikTok and let's see, whatever. LinkedIn is just Sean Barnes. Facebook also. You can also email me, Sean, SEAN, @thewayofthewolf.com. Happy to have conversations. If people just want some guidance or want to bounce ideas off of me, I will always make time to try to help people out. So any of those avenues all work really well.
Awesome. That's a great podcast about leadership. For the most part, I know you get on and talk about fitness some too with a lot of people, but it's mainly about leadership. So definitely go check out Sean, guys. He's a wealth of knowledge and value and there to help in any way that he can. So Sean, I appreciate you for coming on.
All right. Thank you so much, Philip. I got to say, I love the progress that you're making on your podcast studio. I've watched the build, just everything that you got going on. It looks fantastic.
Thanks, man. I'm actually thinking about tearing the wall out, but we'll talk more offline about that. So
all right, man. Sounds good. Thank you.